that this was a state facility and you can't go to church and all that, but it feels like we do. Let's give the choir another round of applause. Good evening.
Good evening.
What an honor it is to be with you tonight. I'm Alisha Thomas Morgan, and this microphone is quite powerful. I am really grateful for the invitation. First, DeAndre, thank you so much we've been working on this for a long time, lots of emails and phone calls, and so I'm glad to be here and see that it finally happened. And we just had a great dinner with your president, Dr. Levy. I bet y'all like him, don't you? He is a wonderful, very personable individual, and so I'm really grateful that I got a chance to spend some time with him. And one of your VPs, Mr. Mass, thank you for your hospitality. And my frat brother, Brian, you know what I'm saying? Appreciate you. Hey to the sorors in the room. Hey, sorors, how you doing? My husband is also here, who is an alpha man. And David, please stand so they can see how fine you are. He hates when I do that. But this is my husband, who is my rock and my support system. Y'all not gonna clap for him? And so, tonight, we are celebrating Black history. Really all month we're celebrating Black history. And if you know anything about who we are as a people, as Black people, as American people, we ought to be celebrating Black history and American history every day. And more importantly, we have to not only celebrate it and celebrate our legacy, we have to create a legacy. And that's what your theme is about tonight. And so this is an important time in our history to celebrate Black history, and it's more than just celebrating Rosa Parks and Dr. King and the people that we know and we've heard of often, but it's also about celebrating those nameless faces, people who sacrificed and did and said the things that other people weren't willing to do, whose names will never make the history books, but they have come before us to give us the opportunities that we have to sit in this room and participate in these kinds of programs and get the education that you are getting. And so we celebrate the many inventions of Black people, from the different ways that you can use a peanut to creating the traffic light to even creating the internet. But as we think about who these leaders are and who these inventors are, it is equally important to think about who you are and who you have been called to be. And what does it take to be a leader? What does it take to make history? Because these people didn't just sit in a room one day and let history happen. They decided to make history happen, make Black history. And not because they wanted their names to be in a book somewhere, but because there were things that needed to change in their communities, and people who said, no, you can't, that's never been done before. But they decided they weren't going to allow those things to get in the way, but in fact, they were going to move forward with what it is that they were called to do. And some of you can relate to that because you aren't even supposed to be sitting in these seats. Because somebody told you, how are you going to go to college? Nobody in your family ever went to college. Your daddy didn't even graduate from high school. How are you going to go to college? Anybody have that experience? How are you going to go to college? How are you going to afford it? Some of y'all still wondering how you're going to afford it. But tonight I want to challenge you to think about a few things. And I also want to update us on some history. You know, when I was in school, and my guess is you had the same experience, we learned that Rosa Parks was this old, tired lady who just didn't feel like giving up her seat. Right? That's what we think. And when we see pictures of her, before she passed away, she was elderly, and so we thought that was her when she was making history. But did you know that in fact she was the secretary of the NAACP branch? And that it wasn't that she was tired, but that was planned, that at that day, at that very moment, that she was going to refuse to give up her seat, which sparked a national movement. And Dr. King wasn't just about giving good speeches, but was only 27 when he led the bus boycott. And so leaders who are young, like many of you in this room, who have been called to do something, who think that they're just ordinary people, but really have been called to do extraordinary things. And so my challenge for you tonight is to think about what it is that you've been called to do, because it is important to celebrate Black history and to celebrate our legacy. But it is as important to create the legacy. To not sit in those seats and just look at me and think about the challenges of the day, and to consider that 50% of Black males won't graduate from high school this school year. 50% of Black males who look like the ones in this room will never have the opportunity to sit in these very seats and get the education that you get. That our prison system is bursting at the seams. Georgia is one of the states that incarcerates more people per capita than any other state in the country, and probably in the world. The more than 1.6 million people in Georgia who have no access to health care. The list goes on. And so the question that you must ask yourselves tonight is, what is it that I've been called to do? What is it that makes me uncomfortable? What brought me here? What's today? Thursday? On a Thursday night when you could be doing a lot of other things. And someone said when they came to bring their greetings that they wished that the room was full. I'm never concerned about how full the room is, because I believe that the people who were called are the ones that show up. Because as much as we like to romanticize Black history and all the things that have happened, the truth is everybody didn't march with Dr. King.
That's right.
Everybody wasn't courageous. Everybody wasn't willing to sacrifice. There were people who were scared. There were people whose parents said, no, you won't be involved in that movement. There were people who were comfortable, who said, even though the laws are unjust, I'm gonna function in my way of life and just do enough to get by. But you are here tonight because you thought it was important to celebrate our legacy, and because you understand the importance of creating and building our own. And so I want to tell you the story of how I became a state representative in Cobb County of all places, because if any of y'all are from Georgia and you know a little bit about Cobb County, you know it don't look like this room. And this room is diverse. And so you can imagine that when I told people that I was going to run for state representative, they said, oh, that is so cute. Oh, that's a nice experience, they said. Because they did not think that it was possible. Because no one had done it before. And after all, if nobody else has done it, surely you can't. And so we started our campaign and started knocking on doors and doing all the things that you're supposed to do when you run for office. But the person who was my campaign manager at the time decided that he was going to drop me as his candidate, put somebody else in the race with the same last name, and then filed a legal challenge against me saying that I hadn't lived in the district long enough. Now that would have been enough for people to just say, never mind, I'll find something else to do. But how many of you know when change is about to happen, it's never going to be easy? And so we ended up having to go to court, and I had on this really nice yellow suit. I was looking good. Had to get another campaign manager, and we presented our case, but we didn't get the decision that day. So we went back and knocked on doors, and the local paper had these pictures of me on the front page that we had this residency challenge, and could we even win if the decision didn't come out in my favor? And so I was driving down I-20 one day, and I get a call from the local newspaper. They wanted to know, how did I feel now that I was no longer in the race? We lost. And the tears ran down my face. And I started questioning God, why is this happening to me? I thought this is what you called me to do. I want to serve your people. Why is this so difficult? Have any of you ever experienced that? When you set out to do something and you know it's the right thing to do, but it just becomes so hard. That's how I was feeling. And so I called my boyfriend at the time, who was now my husband, and we went to Red Lobster, because that's my favorite place. Happy or sad, I gotta go to Red Lobster. Hey, with the Cheddar Bay biscuits. And so I started getting all of these calls from my so-called mentors. Alisha, you're young, you have time, why don't you wait? Because if you appeal the case, you could lose, and that'll be the end of your career. But what they didn't realize is that this wasn't about a political career. And it wasn't about waiting. Because when there's work to be done in our communities, we cannot wait. Wait until you get out of college, until you get enough degrees on the wall, or you have the fine husband or the pretty wife, the dog that barks, all the things we say that we need to wait for in order to get involved. I knew that though it was difficult, this was the moment that I needed to act. And so we decided that we would appeal the case, and we did. And we went before a different judge, and I don't remember what I had on. But on that day, that judge overturned the decision. And on August 20th, 2002, when people said my skin was too dark, my age too young, my thoughts too liberal, who was this black girl from Miami, Florida, whose father never even graduated from high school, who was in a race with two men who were twice my age? How did she do this? Who does she think she is? We got 65% of the vote, and I became Cobb County's first African American state representative. And I share that story with you because so often when we think about Black history, we think that it's 50 and 60 years ago. And we celebrate those people who are long and gone, and we can talk about how great things were and how great of work they have done. But the truth is, Black history can be made every single day. It's a choice, it's an opportunity, and I'm here tonight to let you know that this is our moment. Not to wait, not to even think that it is easy, because it's not. Because now that I'm in the legislature, the challenges have not stopped. And I told my husband on the way here, sometimes I don't like giving speeches when I'm in session because I'm in the middle of battle. And I'm liable to break down in tears and do all kinds of things. I'm not going to cry tonight because I'm mad today. Check with me tomorrow and we'll see how I am. But I'm mad today because in this state we have too many children who are trapped in schools that aren't working for them. And for too long, your zip code has determined the quality of education you get. But you see, when you are 60 and 75 and your children have been out of school for 30 years or they've never seen the inside of a public school, it's easy to make decisions about other people's children. And you don't see the need to make any change because, oh, everything is all right in my family. Because I can move to a school that works, or I can send them to private school, or I can supplement their education. But what about the families who can't move? What about the families who don't have access to that quality education? And so I get mad